Sacramento. But first things first, Frank, and of course, it's the lead story on everybody's mind. Ronda Rousey knocked out by women's bantamweight champion Amanda Nunes this past Friday night at UFC 207 here in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena. Knocked out in 48 seconds. I was there cage side. You were in Sacramento, but I know you saw the fights up there. Let's just start with your thoughts. What do you think?
Well, I think now, I think Ronda has a long road ahead of her if she wants to stay as a competitor, because one thing is you want to stick to what you're good at, which obviously her throws and her submissions on the ground, specifically the arm bar. But getting people into that realm now, throwing people requires you to clinch and push in. And I think that people are realizing now that, well, just don't rush her, like Kat Zingano did, and take a chance of getting blasted, with a throw and thrown to the ground. And I think now, I think before she was throwing in her stand-up with kind of unabandoned because she was fearless. But I think that you've seen in this last fight, she needs to have some kind of level change. She stands straight up in a striking match. And she didn't have the same bravado that she had prior to the Holly Holm fight, where she, you've seen her against Betch Carrera. She just came right in. Was able to, against Sarah McMahon. Very fearless, threw the hard knee, was able to brawl. You've seen in this fight a much more tentative version of her. And I think before, because she is such an explosive athlete, years of being a great judoka, she hits hard, and so I think before she never really got dropped, so she had no fear of the consequences of jumping in on people. So that was in her favor, but it was always a risk that finally caught up to her in the Holly Holm fight. And in this fight with Amanda Nunes, she sat back and was more conservative even for the few seconds that the fight lasted. But her striking is so not on any level to begin with that she can do that. If you want to be able to sit and be neutral and move around and kind of and not just overwhelm your opponent, you can basically make up for a lack of technique with aggression. Mm-hmm. If you're aggressive, it's kind of like, well, now you can it's a coin toss. Mm-hmm. You might still get knocked out, maybe even knocked out worse, but at least there's an opportunity maybe you knock out or hurt your opponent. If you're going to be tactical, you have to be tactical. And you can't sit there and how she was tactical. Her coach was, to Edmund's, defense, I mean, he was telling her the right thing, make the girl miss, move her head. I would have preferred level changes. And at one point too, I even thought, going into the fight, I'm like, wow, if they take a fight out of an Imanari from Japan, mm-hmm. do a front roll into the girl's legs, just somehow get her into the fight, get her past the first round where she's not, get through the jitters of the nightmare her last fight was, then it would be great to gain that momentum, get that, get back in there. I mean, everybody, it's human nature. If the last time you got into a car, someone sideswiped you, the very next time you get in the car, you're probably going to be apprehensive of mm-hmm. people on the side of you, or, next mm-hmm. time, oh, the guy took a left-hand turn in front of me. Well, guess what? You're going to be a little bit nervous when you see mm-hmm. a blinker coming on as you're going through an intersection.
I'm that way when I get in new relationships. Whenever the girl goes to touch me out, I flinch like this.
Let them know they used to be beat, huh?
Yeah.
But that being said, time and exposure in the octagon would have helped her, and really this was a worst case scenario for her. I thought she kind of had a hole to dig out of coming out of this last fight with Holly Holm. Took way too much time off. Too much time to ponder and think, and just it builds up the pressure. And then now she went out there and got destroyed again, even worse. Yeah. With her striking. The boxing looked horrendous. There was no defense whatsoever. She kind of kept her left hand up a little bit high, but the one thing that you could see that was actually kind of telling for me was that she kept her hands up, but she wasn't really reacting to punches coming towards her. There wasn't a flinch. There wasn't an attempt to move out. I've seen people get hit by punches. You see the punch coming, and they kind of might bite down their mouthpiece, and they might not have the appropriate response, but I think that's teachable. I could sit there and as a coach go to somebody, okay, watch the film of you getting hit. You saw the punch. You saw the read. So your mind has the right inclination of when it's in danger, of when that person threw that shot. Mm-hmm. Now we just have to get the neurons in your brain to fire in the correct order, that now you're going to have the appropriate response. Okay, now we need you to duck, or we need you to pull, slip this punch, or, block it this way. And it almost looked like really Ronda didn't even react to the punches. She kind of kept her arm up. She reacted after the fact of getting hit, but there wasn't any kind of pulling or shying away from the strike, which tells me it's like, wow, did you even see the punches coming?
Kind of froze. It was kind of like an absence of any movement at that point.
She locked up. And so really, honestly, I think if Ronda was serious about being I'm not saying that she's not serious. I guess that's not the right way to put it. If she has the desire to continue on as a mixed martial artist, I think fighting very low-level girls and building herself back up is the way to go. But she's kind of stuck in a really conundrum where, because she gets paid so much, the idea of giving her an unranked bantamweight girl to get her back into the groove is probably not going to occur unless she takes a huge pay cut. This is the situation where even dropping out and going to a different organization to fight lesser opponents right now, to build back some kind of momentum and confidence. Because right now, if she comes back again and faces another top 5 girl, everybody's kind of seeing the blueprint. I mean, the blueprint with Ronda is don't rush her, don't run into a punch. Just keep her at the end of your jab and just start boxing. She runs in, punch her, step back, she clinches, push off. Don't drive in, as we've seen like a Zingano do. Even Miesha Tate in their fight started making those mistakes in their last fight they had in the UFC. She would shoot in on the legs, drive up to the upper body, and then basically driving in and get launched. And I think that once everybody kind of seen Holly Holm get clinched and back out of the clinch, going, okay, well, it's kind of wrestling and judo 101. It's near damn impossible to launch somebody through the air with a throw if once you lock up with them, they start backing out of the throw. Mm-hmm. And so she has to develop takedowns that are more wrestling orientated. I think the judo takedowns are now hit their limit, where people realize that, all I got to do is stall and move backwards. I can stop basically your whole takedown offense. And then, her striking. She needs to get in there at a lower level competition and have some success.
People have made the analogy to Royce Gracie, that, Royce was going through armbar and in fact, I think still has the record for most armbar submissions in the UFC. But at a certain point, that sort of started to get figured out, or at least the defense to it, And I've heard it wondered aloud if now women's MMA hasn't gotten to that point. And I don't know if it's that easy. I definitely think there's something to realizing that that Ronda can't throw you if she doesn't have a hold of you, and so that's a real good reason to keep her at a distance. But the other problem, I think, with this defeat as compared to the Holly Holm defeat is that with Holly, she got beat by Holly's style, to be sure, but she was at least trying to compete. I mean, there were some tie-ups. There
was fire in her still.
Yeah, and Holly was...
That bravado that she had for all her several fights, she still brought to the Holly Holm fight.
Yeah.
She did not bring to this fight.
Yeah, and she was also able to at least attempt to execute her game plan against Holly. I mean, they clinched up. Forward. Holly was able to get out of it. I mean, that was the big revelation of Holly.
Holly down and got on the
ground.
She
did. Exactly. This was just... I mean... Ronda just there was no off. Ronda didn't get a chance to do any offense. It really was just an absolute steamrolling.